As a leader, isn't it frustrating when plans fall short? But many execution problems don't start with the team. They start with the strategy itself. And it's not because the strategy is wrong, but it's because the strategy isn't clear enough. In this video, we will look at why many strategies never get executed and how the lack of clarity silently erodes away at execution before it ever starts. Now, I've worked with many organizations and I've seen the same pattern repeat over and over again. Many organizations don't actually have a strategy, even though they think they do. What they have instead are goals, initiatives, a vision statement, a long list of priorities, and these things are all important, but none of them on their own actually is a strategy. And none of them by themselves create the kind of clarity that teams need for execution. Now, I work primarily with nonprofit organizations, and so I'll talk about strategy through a mission-driven lens here. But these same principles apply whether you're leading a nonprofit, a church, or a business. Now, strategy is a clear approach for advancing your mission given the reality that you're operating in. And you do have to acknowledge that there are circumstances that you are in an environment that influences your direction. So first of all, it helps to be clear about what strategy is not. Strategy is not a vision statement, it's not a list of priorities, and it's not a plan to do more good things, which are all good things in and of themselves. But a real strategy is the integration of three essential elements. First of all, focus. This is where the organization will concentrate its efforts to advance the mission. The second one is approach. This talks about how will the mission be pursued in the context and the constraints that you are facing. And then there's fit. What kind of organization do you need to be for that approach to actually work? Now, these elements are not separate steps. Together, they are the strategy. And if one of them is vague or disconnected from the others, the strategy itself becomes unclear. And that's when leaders feel confident about the vision, but the teams struggle to execute. Not because they don't care, but because they're not sure that the strategy gives them a connected way forward. And it's really tough to execute what isn't clear. Once a strategy is in place, its job is not just to sit on a slide deck or in a binder on someone's desk. Its job is to guide the organization. A functioning strategy gives leaders and teams a shared logic, so to say, for making decisions when trade-offs show up, and you know they are always going to show up. It helps people interpret what matters when the situation is ambiguous, helps them to choose between competing demands. It helps them stay aligned when conditions change. When strategy is doing its job, it shows up in how decisions are made, how work is prioritized, and how resources are allocated. And when it isn't, leaders just end up compensating by re-explaining their direction or correcting the course midstream, constantly realigning people after the fact. It ends up being much more reactive. Strategy becomes foggy when it's too broad, it's too conceptual, it's described differently by different leaders, which causes confusion. And when that happens, teams will interpret direction differently. You end up with priorities multiply. The decision-making slows down and progress feels scattered. So how do you know if you have a foggy strategy? First of all, everything feels important. And then decisions take longer than they should. And people stay busy. But that progress doesn't actually accumulate. Without a clear strategy, teams stay really busy, but the execution doesn't move forward at the speed that you're looking for. Now, if this sounds vaguely familiar to you, I created a short diagnostic quiz to help leaders identify where the execution is actually breaking down. So check the link below. What clarity actually requires is a shared understanding of where the organization is focused and why, and a clear approach leaders use to explain how the mission will be pursued in the current season. And then consistent language that leaders use to reinforce that focus and approach. Decisions, trade-offs, and resource choices that visibly reflect the strategy, not just random conceptual conversations. Clarity isn't about having fewer slides. It's about a strategy that guides how decisions actually get made. And when you have a clear strategy, your decisions speed up, the alignment becomes easier, the execution becomes more predictable. And when it's not clear, everything downstream bogs down. Clarity is not a nice to have. It's the starting point. In the next video, we'll look about why talking about the strategy doesn't make it happen and what actually does.